or it is healing from trauma, mental health, and of course, resiliency, as we discuss big, big topics, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So do me a favor, take us right from the beginning, introduce yourself, tell my audience a little bit about who you are, and of course, where they can find you.
Absolutely. So, as you said, my name is Trina Kennedy. I live in Black Falls, Alberta, with my husband. So, Black Falls is about like 5 minutes north of Red Deer. And Red Deer, for those who may not know, is pretty much smack dab in the middle of Alberta and Alberta, sorry, well, Alberta kind of too, Edmonton and Calgary. I am a social worker. I've been working in the human services field for over 30 years, and I worked in a lot of different capacities over the 3 decades as a human service worker. I just wrote my book, From Trauma to Triumph and What Lies Between. Thank you so much. That just came out in October of last year. And I'm a speaker, author, and most recently just wrapping up my certification to be a women-centered coach. So those are kind of all the things I do. I'm also a mental health first aid instructor. So mental health, trauma, resiliency, those three things are very much intertwined and very much my area of expertise and passion.
Mental health, I wish it became the passion for everyone because it's something that either impacts us directly, like we've gone through it, or indirectly. We know a partner, we know a friend, we know a loved one, even children have impacted this. So, why did you get started in this area?
Well, I think we all have mental health, just like we all have physical health. There is no physical health without mental health. So it is a part of all of us. How it's impacted us, it might vary from person to person for sure. But just in my life personally, and certainly as a social worker, there really wasn't an area of my life that hasn't been touched. Quite significantly by mental health. A lot of my book, I write about my own mental health struggles as an adolescent with depression, anxiety, and quite a serious suicide attempt. I lost my sister Tanya. She's the middle of three daughters. We lost her almost 4 years ago to an overdose, sadly and tragically. She had very significant mental health issues all of her adult life. And then as a social worker, supporting individuals, very marginalized and oppressed individuals who quite significant, their mental health was quite significantly impacted, understandably. We know people who are marginalized and oppressed, that's a higher prevalence rate for sure with mental health issues. So they're just, it was just part of my life personally and professionally. So just learned the skills specifically around trauma, mental health. And then I became a mental health first aid instructor probably 7 years ago now, which I'm really passionate about because that's through the Mental Health Commission of Canada. So it's training people to become mental health first aiders so that they have the framework and the knowledge to be able to have conversations. Because if we wait for services or the government to save us, we're in really big trouble. We have to support each other as a community. And I think that's really the big piece, whether we're talking about trauma or mental health or substance use, whatever it is, we need to come together as a community, as neighbors, helping each other, supporting each other, as opposed to being divisive and divided and all of the things that we're seeing kind of around the world right now.
What do you think are some of the misconceptions when it comes to mental health that you would want to maybe debunk or at least clarify for those listening?
Well, as I said, there is no physical health without mental health. So I think the term mental health is still very stigmatized. Unfortunately, stigma is the number one reason people don't ask for help or reach out for help. Less than 50% of people, according to the Mental Health Commission of Canada, actually reach out to get that help. So stigma is the main barrier for people, unfortunately. And I think it's just really important that mental health is not character deficit or weakness or any of those things. Just like if somebody had diabetes, right? It's let's figure out what they need for treatment and do what they need to do to live the best life they can with whatever form of treatment they're needing to do that. Mental health, or I like to reframe it actually to brain health, because I think that takes some of the stigma out of it. So physical health, heart health, brain health, right? I think it really normalizes the fact that we all have mental health. There's nothing wrong with it. We have to take care of it just as we would our physical health.
I remember reading where there was this document that I was reading when it came to the four pillars of health, and it mentioned like mental health, physical health, emotional health, and spiritual health, if I remember
Mm.
correctly. Whew, I'm so old. But the interesting part about that is, I find, to your point, when it comes to physical health, that can be identified probably by 9 people out of 10, right? Yeah, keep active, watch yourself, things like that, right? When it comes to the mental health, or as you put it, the brain health, then that's where you start to see maybe people don't know what to do when it comes to spiritual health. Everyone's going to associate it with religion, and then
Right.
emotional health. People are like, okay, how do we connect with others? How do we connect with our partners? And the reason why I bring this up is that there seems, at least to me, a gap in regards to the amount of effort we put into our physical health as well as our mental health and all the other two pillars. And I wonder sometimes, is it because the physical health is more visible to other people, whereas the mental health maybe isn't as visible? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that terrain is definitely part of it for sure. And when you look at our systems, when you look at social media or movies or anything like that, the focus really is on physical health. You can walk into any walk-in clinic and access a doctor for physical health issues, or at least that's what you can in Alberta. I'm not sure what that looks like where you're from in Canada. You can, okay, great. You cannot just walk into any clinic to get mental health support. We are very limited here in Alberta. And even the way we talk about things, for example, suicide, I still hear the term committed suicide, which, the word committed is we commit crimes, we get committed to the hospital. We would never say someone committed a heart attack. Oh, I knew that hamburger Tom ate last week was going to be the nail in his coffin. Like, we don't say that. Um, so it should be died by suicide, because then it puts mental health and physical health on that same playing field. Our language is one of the main proponents of actually um, perpetuating that shame and stigma that surrounds mental health. So really being mindful of our words, our words and language is very powerful. Um, and how many times do you hear someone go, "Oh yeah, man, I got to the gym 5 times this week"? Do you hear anyone go, "Yeah, I got to my therapist once a week for the last month"? Like, we don't talk about it in the same way that we talk about our physical health. There's creams for every wrinkle that shows up. There's weight loss diet books. Everybody's on a new weight loss fad, right? Like, we talk about that. It's normalized. It's like it's almost reinforced that we have to have good physical health to be, to have value. Unfortunately, nobody's really talking about that mental health component piece, the brain health piece, right? And there's so much to that piece as well.
I think it's something that if we took it as seriously as we did when it comes to our physical health, then at least that way we can say that, okay, it's just as important, if not even more so, just because without mental health, there isn't the physical health, and it's all intertwined. And you raise a good point when you mentioned the language. What is maybe some ways that we can view it differently in not only our behavior, but in how we speak about it?
Sure, that's a great question. So I think part of it is when we're talking about mental health challenges, or if we're experiencing mental health symptoms or mental health diagnoses, whatever that's looking like, to speak in what's called first person. So it's, someone who's experiencing anxiety as opposed to they have anxiety. Right? It's a part of who they are. It's not all of who they are. Someone who's experiencing substance issues as opposed to an addict. You know, so somebody who's experiencing schizophrenia as opposed to they're schizophrenic. So again, that first person language terrain, that really just says it's a part of who they are. It's not all of who they are. So that's a big piece of how we can certainly speak about it differently. I think as well, just normalizing, normalizing going to counseling, or normalizing, yeah, I'm struggling in an area in my life emotionally, and I'm going to see a counselor. Just as if we could talk about it just as openly as we would about going to the gym, because those are equally as important in our overall health. So talking about it is a big piece, which I think, it's powerful when people like you are doing podcasts like this to bring that awareness piece as well.